All right, you guys, welcome back to lesson 4.1, Going for the Gold, a Cycling Champion Story. So we're going to be watching this video in just a few minutes to help us begin our preparation for our science seminar. So in the science seminar, you guys are going to come up with a claim, you're going to come up with evidence to back up that claim, and you're going to come up with reasoning. And we're going to have an all-class discussion on it. So as we go through the next couple of lessons, you're going to be learning about what we will be discussing. So we are going to be doing in this lesson 4.1 parts 1 through 3. So let's hop into part 1. So you're going to hop into Amplify, and in part 1 you are going to be watching a video about the athlete whose improved performance has led to some suspect of him blood doping. Think about what you learned about the blood doping process and remember about how blood doping works and how it could affect cellular respiration. So think back on that. Take 2 minutes to go ahead and answer this question. Pause the video here so you can complete your warm-up. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the video. Now, the video is not going to play very well on here. So I want you guys to go ahead and hop out onto Canvas. And right below this video, you should see a video that looks like this, and it is waiting for you to play it. So pause the video here and go ahead and play that video. All right, so now that you've watched that video, what are your initial thoughts about Jordan Jones? Do you have any questions about him? So right now, you should be discussing this with your partners at your table. Remember, make sure you guys are sitting with people that are working on the same lesson as you are so you can have these discussions with them. Remember, that's very, very important. All right, so pause the video here so you can go ahead and have that discussion. All right, we're going to go on to activity 2. So I'm going to introduce you to the science seminar. So in activity 2 in your lesson, we're going to examine evidence to determine what Jordan Jones did to increase his performance in this race that he's doing so dramatically. Then we'll have that whole class discussion called the science seminar. That's going to be 4.3. Please make sure you guys are catching up on your lessons so that you will be on pace when we go to do that one together. So in that one, you're going to share your evidence and you're going to debate whether Jordan Jones might have been blood doping or not. So we're going to investigate this problem over the next few lessons. Considering the evidence and the claims and discussing your thinking is all part of the scientific argumentation process. So one of the most important practices used by doctors is doing this, coming up with evidence, claim, and the reason why they say that it backs up that claim. So besides blood doping, what are possible explanations for Jordan's improvement? So pause the video here and talk to your partner. Come up with some ideas of what you think might change his performance in a race other than doing blood doping. All right, so in chapter 4, we're going to focus on this question. How did the athlete increase his cellular respiration and improve his performance? So in the next few lessons, we're going to be focusing just on that. So this National Biking Association has actually made some claims about Jordan Jones's improvement. You'll need to determine which claim is best supported by the evidence. So we're going to jump back into Amplify and introduce you to those claims. So we know this elite athlete, Jordan Jones, finished his 35th competition finished 35th in the competition bike race that he did last year and first in a similar race this year. And what we really don't know is how did he increase his cellular respiration and increase his performance? So claim 1 is that he increased that cellular respiration and improved his performance by blood doping. The next claim 2 is that he changed his pre-race meal, so what he ate before the meal. And then claim 3 is that he changed it by training at a higher altitude. So he's increasing his respiration and his performance by either blood doping, his pre-race meal, or training at a higher altitude. All right, so we're going to go into activity 3. If you haven't finished activity 2, make sure you go back and review it. Pause the video here if you need to. All right, so in activity 3, blood doping and high altitude training. So now we're going to reread part of the blood doping and messing with metabolism to win races to get information about these 2 of 3 claims that we're focusing on, that he blood doped and that he trained at high altitude. So we're going to leave the one about his diet or his pre-race meal to the side for now and just focus on these two. So we know that altitude is a measure of how high something is. When considering something on Earth is measured by, or when we say altitude, it's measured of how high it is above sea level. So if this was sea level, it would be the distance above where the sea is. So, high altitude training is usually done above 2,400 meters, or about 8,000 feet. The air you breathe in this area has way less oxygen, and it causes your body to change in ways that the article describes. So, as you read the sections of catching blood dopers and an alternative to blood doping, you're going to annotate the text to help you answer the questions. And we're going to focus on those questions that you see in your reread. So I jumped back into Amplify so you could see we're on part 3. And on part 3, if you go into the article, it says here focus on catching blood dopers and an alternative to blood doping. So we're going to roll down in the article and we're going to go to catching blood dopers, and right here we're going to reread this article and an alternative to blood doping. So those are the two sections that we are going to read, and then you're going to answer these questions. Now you can do this with your partner. You're going to need to pause the video here, but make sure you answer these questions about how the doctors use those things to be able to figure out if someone is blood doping or not, and how that high altitude training can change what's going on with the oxygen in their cells. So pause the video here to complete that. All right, now you and your partner need to have a discussion. How do doctors use the age of the red blood cells to determine whether or not someone was blood doping? And how do they use hemoglobin levels to decide whether or not somebody was blood doping? So pause here and discuss that with your partner. Come up with some ideas that you may be able to use to help you answer these questions with your partner. All right, a couple other questions for you. What are oxygen levels like in the air at high altitude? Okay, so at high altitude, we said that's about 8,000 feet. So what did we say the air was like at high altitude? I'm going to go back to that slide for just a moment. So at high altitude, we know that there's less oxygen, so that's going to be important to know. So how can high altitude training help athletes be able to get more oxygen into their cells? When they're at high altitudes, they're at low oxygen levels. So what does that help them do? So you aren't actually doing part 4 in your lesson, but we are doing it together. So make sure you pay attention in the rest of the video. So we're going to start by evaluating some evidence about Jordan Jones. Remember, in order to reach conclusions, we need really strong arguments and we need really high quality evidence. So your first job today is to examine evidence and determine whether it is high quality or not. So here's a piece of evidence that we're going to evaluate using this criteria. We are going to practice evaluating with this evidence. So remember, we said that high quality or evidence is higher quality when it is based on more data, because there can be more confidence in the patterns that you see. So you can see these patterns repeating over and over. So let's go ahead and look at Amplify. All right, so here we have two examples. We've got a person who ate a ham sandwich and ran a race, and she finished first place. So the claim is that the ham sandwich was the reason that she won, and that she should eat ham sandwiches before all of her races. Well, example B says the person who ate different meals before 20 races that he ran. For 10 of the races, he ate spaghetti before the race and finished either first, second, or third place. For the other 10 races, he ate fried chicken and finished in second place, but finished in 6th or 7th in the rest of the races. So our claim is for that one that spaghetti helped his performance and he should eat spaghetti before all of his races. Which of these claims do you think is higher quality evidence? So pause the video here and take like a 30-minute discussion with your partner and decide which one of these is better. All right, now that you've had a moment to discuss which one is higher quality evidence, well, let's see. What do you think? Well, example B, if we look back at example B, it was done over 20 races. And the first one was done over one race, and she finished in first place, but it was only one race. So which one do you think would be higher quality evidence? Well, the person in example A came to the conclusion that they ran a good race because they ate a meal. Why was this probably not a really strong enough claim to make? And what could they have done to make it a little bit stronger and make it based on high quality evidence? Well, maybe your thoughts are that they should collect more data and have more evidence for more races. You would be right. Next, you're going to work with a partner to discuss evidence about Jordan Jones and decide where to place each card on the gradient based on the evidence. So in activity five, you're going to get a set of evidence cards. Those evidence cards, you will get one set to use during this activity. As you choose where to place each piece of the evidence on the gradient, you're going to ask yourself, does this provide enough data to establish a pattern? Notice that the criteria that you have included that we have included so that you can refer to it and evaluate it as evidence. Okay, so with your partner, you're going to discuss each evidence card and use the evidence gradient to rate whether the evidence is high quality, medium quality, or low quality. So for each piece of evidence, ask yourself the following question. Does this provide enough data for me to establish a pattern? And then you're going to discuss that with your group again and decide which ones are high quality and low quality evidence. Once you have decided which ones are, place your cards in your envelope and make sure you write your name on it. So what we're actually going to do is you guys are going to keep these cards and we're going to be using these as we go through the rest of the lesson. So where did you guys place each card? Review the evidence you considered low quality. So have you changed your thinking based on our discussion? So let's see, if the evidence cards that you have, if you look at them, do they have a lot of data to back them up? Do they have high quality evidence? You need to be thinking about these things. Let's discuss the evidence if we can agree on in cards 2 and 3 and if they can be discarded. Okay, so again, that was agree on 2 to 3 cards that we can discuss together. So if you look at these cards, let's say evidence card C. Jordan Jones read a study of 2,000 athletes showing that they ate more starch and made them perform better in long distance races because there was more glucose available for cellular respiration. He changed his pre-race meal about a year ago, and now he eats more starch before the race. So do you think this would be a piece of high quality evidence? Well, they did a study with 20,000 athletes that showed that they did eat more starch and it made them race better. So if they did that much studying, do we have a lot of data there? Well, yeah, we do. So would this be a piece of high quality evidence or would it be a lower quality piece of evidence? Okay, let's look at one other one. Let's look at evidence card E. Okay, actually, let's look at evidence card N. So we look at Jordan's pre-race meals, and it says that last year he ate 2 corns and 4 corn sandwiches, and this year he ate 4 corn and 2 fish before he did his race. Would this be high quality evidence? Does it give us enough data? That would be our question. All right, so you want to decide which one of these cards that you are going to discard based on them not having enough evidence. You're going to put those to the side and you want to somehow mark those so you know those are the ones that you say are low quality and you're not going to look at them again. We can put a paper clip on them. If you want a paper clip, I can give you one. And then you're going to return the remaining cards to your envelope or into your binder so that we can come back to those later. You want to keep the high quality evidence cards. Make sure you go back to Amplify, check the rest of the lesson, and see what else you need to do for today's lesson.